Welcome to TQ Talks, where taxes meet planning. Here's your host, Craig White.
Welcome back to another episode of TQ Talks. I am your host, Craig White, and I'm happy to have you with us. School is out. If you're a parent, you understand. Today's episode, we're talking about hiring your kids, right? Some of you guys keep beating us on. I know we're going to go over this like probably 90 times, 90 different ways, but it's all good. We get it. Hiring your kids is important. It's also a very effective tax strategy, one that people struggle to understand. And I don't really know the nuance of what I'm going to talk about today. I know what I'm going to say, but hopefully the information that we're giving you is going to be something that makes sense to you. I don't know if we're going to go over like how much you're paying your kid or whatever, but I know we're going to make sense of this whole strategy is the goal at least. I don't know. We'll see what happens. The bottom line for us is a lot of our clients have kids, which is great. It's one of the wonderful strategies you can use in order to offset your tax liability. It's fantastic. It's a great thing. But the question then becomes, who am I hiring? How much can I pay them? What are their responsibilities? People are really trying to understand it, and they also are struggling to understand. When we say hire your kids, we mean salary, W-2. We don't mean 1099, and we're giving them odd jobs and then throw them some cash, right? Because that's not going to help on the strategic point, right? But everybody does it. We've seen it on every social media. Hire kids, put your kids on payroll, tax strategy. Everybody does it. And it's frustrating because they don't give you any information. They just tell you, it's the standard deduction is $15,000, and you should get that for free. There's no money. And yeah, that's true. And we're probably not going to touch on it on this episode, but we want to make sure you have an understanding of what this means. Can you actually hire your children to work in your business? The answer is yes. 100% you can. The real question that should be asked is, what role are these kids playing? And we're going to go over that. Like, what are they actually doing? Business owners can't hire their kids. The kids must perform actual work. Making sure we're clear on what we're going to discuss. The work must benefit the business, and the compensation has to be reasonable. Depending on when this one airs, I don't really know which one it is, but reasonable compensation, I think, was the last one we did. I don't remember. But ultimately, the same rule applies. The easiest way for you to get in trouble is paying a child who ain't doing anything at all. Right? You just say, I'm going to throw them on payroll and have a good day, because it's a great tax savings. Guys, listen, you already know. If you don't know, IRS is documentation. That is probably the biggest thing for them. But factors, when you're trying to figure out if you're hiring your kids, most business owners, myself and my spouse included, we're looking for tax efficiency. We want to write off as much stuff as we possibly can legally, and then also use that information to do other investments. We're not going to talk about that. Family involvement, because we see this on a level where most people are actually creating businesses with the child or with their sisters, uncles, aunts. We talked about partnerships in a previous podcast, or probably multiple, where people are constantly piling everybody on the same thing and saying, yeah, we just want to be a part of it. And they didn't realize they had a partnership, and that's a problem, but that's a different episode. But yeah, you want your child, right, involved in your business, because it's a great tool. It's a teaching it helps them to teach responsibility, right? You understand entrepreneurship. You're creating work experience. Financial literacy, especially for us, it's one of the greatest things. And you give them exposure to multiple roles in being an entrepreneur, from owner to operator to employee, right? Because to marketing to advertising to payroll, like they do everything. Janitorial services, depending on what you do. So it is a really, really good tool, not just for money and savings, tax savings, which it is, but man, kids learn so much. And we're speaking from personal experience, right? My son worked for us, and then he now works for my wife, and it's a great thing. It really, really is. So let's jump into the age discussion, because I know that's one of the things people ask. Well, how early can you hire your child? Honestly, there's no perfect number. You can hire them at age newborn, because it depends on what they're doing. So an example of that, if you own a baby clothing company, guess who's your model? right? Easy spokesperson. That's it. You take a picture, you put them in your clothing, take it. It's very simple to show the IRS that, yeah, I'm paying this person a reasonable compensation as a model for my company, and yes, they're my child. End of discussion. Now, would you have that, let's call it 1-year-old, doing accounting work? Probably not, right? So the role that they have, the skills that they have to match the age and what they're doing in your company. Are they mature enough to handle whatever position you put them in? What are the needs of the business? So those are the things you're looking at. Again, younger kids are the simplest ones. Everybody panics on what they're going to do, but they can organize. I think my son right now is, it's a summer, so I know, but I remember last year, I want to say he did filing. He answered phone calls. He organized paperwork. He did shredding. This is at my wife's office. For us, you guys have been there. If you have walked in, my son was actually doing some data entry. He was definitely answering phone calls, cleaning up the place. He did a lot of marketing for us, which was great because he was good about it. And even now he's older, and we're trying to figure out if we can get him back because he's really good at editing in videos. He does these things all the time. So maturity and age and development play a factor and a role in what they're doing. But again, filing paperwork, shredding, cleaning, these are simple things. Mailing things out or preparing mails. If you have inventory, they can organize those things. Social media, God knows, especially when they become teenagers, that is something they do way better than us all day long. Photography, videography, admin work, data entry, follow-up, right? Customer care, simple for them. Event setup, depending on the type of stuff you have, because we have a lot of face painters and artists, so those kind of things. Content creation, again, simple for the child. So it's easy to see that the role or what the child can do depending on the age is going to vary, but they definitely can be contributing factors to your business. One of the things you have to make sure is that the job should match the child's abilities. That's all you have to think. Common sense. Common sense goes a long way, and I know common sense is not that common, but that's what you're thinking about when you're talking about hiring the child, right? Again, the most important thing when it comes to this segment or any other segment we talk about is going to be documentation and the fact that the kids are actually doing work, right? I won't say you cannot, because a lot of people do. No names, President. You get hired and you put your child on a reasonable compensation to do X job. Make sure they're doing the job. Make sure that you're recording whatever it is they're doing. Sometimes it's easy. If they're, editing videos, if the videos are on social media, it's pretty simple. As a matter of fact, I think Liam has a landing. What are those things called? A little scrolling thing on the top of our Instagram. He has his own, like Liam's Corner or something like that, where you see him doing things. So it's pretty simple to prove that he was actually working there. But the work has to be legitimate, and it has to be documented, right? You got to make sure that it's explainable to whoever. Yes, this is what this person does. No, he's not my chauffeur at age 10, right? That doesn't make any sense. So you want to make sure it's easy to understand. The compensation should be reasonable. That's very important to note, right? Just because the standard deduction is $15,000, $750, whatever it is, and you want to max it out, right? Because you get to write that off as an expense when you hire that child, doesn't mean that they should be paid $15,700, or whatever the number ends up being. Because if that work, as we discussed, again, please listen to the other podcast about reasonable compensation, if their role in the company is not $15,000 worth of income, then guys, don't pay them that. That's not the reason to do so. Make sure that if they're paying them whatever the amount is, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, that yes, this is worth the money, and anyone swapping roles with this individual would do so. Now, again, remember, this is a tax strategy, so you don't want to pay yourself or pay the child past the standard deduction, because now you're messing things up. Just note that. I'm not going to go into details on this podcast, but just note we're not passing the standard deduction. And, of course, you call us 800-413-1456 for this tax strategy. We'll talk to you exactly on how to do that, but note that to yourself. So the compensation has to reflect the work being performed, something to make sure you know. Would you pay someone else the same amount to do this, or are you just paying your kid because you love them, right? That's a question that you need to ask yourself. And again, like we talked about, and I keep mentioning, documentation is everything. Try to have a job description. Again, you're pretending it's not just your child. You're flipping the role. Someone else comes in. Can you quickly switch this out? Job descriptions are important. Keeping records of time, like when they're in the company and doing actual work. Payroll, of course, is pretty simple because if you put them on payroll, you already know that, right? The records are already there. The work performed needs to be done. Copies of completed work. Anything you can do to show that, hey, this person is doing what they need to do. If they're organizing the files, make sure you maintain the files. If they're assisting with marketing, save the deliverables, right? Easy as that, man. If they're dropping things off, depending on the age, just note where they're traveling to and what they've done. So the strategy about hiring your kids, it's not just, by the way, about hiring your kids. I know we're talking about the compensation, but remember what we talked about in the beginning point of it. It's making sure that your kids have a well-rounded idea of entrepreneurship and management and every other role that they could have. This is such a big monumental thing that you could do for your child, especially if you really do have them involved in the business, because their mindset shifts. Our son talks about being a business owner because he only knows that. He has no idea about a salary job, right? He doesn't. Now, I'm not saying it's bad to have one, right? If he wants to be, who knows, doctor, whatever the case is, who's going to say no to that? But it's great that we're able to expose him to so many things. So make sure the child has actual responsibilities. And when I should have covered mistakes, they need to have real responsibilities. They need to have work product, right? You have to have this information there and make sure that just because you have a good intention, right, you want to do this strategy, that you don't mess it up by not having the right documentation. Make sure you're not being unreasonable in the work that they're doing and how much you're paying them. I don't need to go too far into that. It's pretty easy to understand. We delved on that before. It has to make sense to the child. Again, you're not going to have a baby performing surgery. It just doesn't make any sense. Waiting too long is also a problem, or a mistake, I should say, that people do. They say, oh, man, it's the end of the year and we're going to, oh, yeah, it's December. Let's put them on payroll. Yeah, you can. But again, guess what? The payroll is the amount that they're going to get paid for that 1 month of work is still a deduction on your taxes, so we're not knocking it. But if possible, you'd want to do it earlier, starting earlier in the year, so you could pay them or they can be compensated in a larger amount, which of course would help to reduce your taxable income. You don't also want to try to reconstruct things and pile things on at the end, so try not to wait. And again, we can't delve on this enough. The benefits of hiring your child go far beyond the financial freedom that appears, right, in your business or anywhere else. The accountability that they have, time management, financial literacy, saving habits, investing habits, the list goes on and on. So, guys, the answer is yes, you can hire your child. No, there's no age. Yes, you have to make sure you pay attention to how much you're compensating them and is it reasonable to what they're doing. But ultimately, it's a great strategy to have. So, again, hiring your child isn't about creating a tax deduction, which it is. It's wonderful. It's about creating a legitimate role for your child within your company that benefits both of you. Guys, thank you for joining us for this episode of TQ Talks. I'm sure that you had a lot of information from this or got a lot of information from this. Any questions, you already know, give us a shout, 800-413-1456. I never do the intro and outro correctly, which is why my son does it, and we hired him to do it. You guys have a great evening. We'll talk to you next week. Later.
Thank you for listening to TQ Talks. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and recommend on iTunes, SoundCloud, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more information at tqfinancials.com.